Okay.
Welcome, friends, to the United Lodge of Theosophists in the Washington, D.C. and greater metropolitan area, and even wider online. We welcome you today to today's talk, which is on the Theosophical New Year. But first, I'll read the declaration of the United Lodge of Theosophists. The policy of this lodge is independent devotion to the cause of Theosophy, without professing attachment to any theosophical organization. It is loyal to the great founders of the Theosophical movement, but does not concern itself with dissensions or differences of individual opinion. The work it has on hand and the end it keeps in view are too absorbing and too lofty to leave it the time or inclination to take part in side issues. That work and that end is the dissemination of the fundamental principles of the philosophy of Theosophy and the exemplification and practice of those principles through a truer realization of the self, a profounder conviction of universal brotherhood. It holds that the unassailable basis for union among Theosophists, wherever and however situated, is similarity of aim, purpose, and teaching, and therefore has neither constitution, bylaws, nor officers, the sole bond between its associates being that basis. And it aims to disseminate this idea among Theosophists in the furtherance of unity. It regards as Theosophists all who are engaged in the true service of humanity, without distinction of race, creed, sex, condition, or organization, and it welcomes to its association all those who are in accord with its declared purposes and who desire to fit themselves by studying otherwise to be the better able to help and teach others. The true Theosophist belongs to no cult or sect, yet belongs to each and all. And if one wants to become an associate of the United Lodge of Theosophists, there is a card one can sign, and it simply says, being in sympathy with the purposes of this lodge as set forth in the declaration, I hereby record my desire to be enrolled as an associate, it being understood that such association calls for no obligation on my part other than that which I myself determine. Next, we'll do a reading from the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 6, Devotion by Means of Self-Restraint. And Krishna is speaking. He who, unattached to the fruit of his actions, performeth such actions as should be done, is both a renouncer of action and a devotee of right action, not he who liveth without kindling the sacrificial fire and without ceremonies. Know, O son of Pandu, that what they call sannyas, or a forsaking of action, is the same as yoga, or the practice of devotion. No one having previously renounced all intentions can be devoted. Action is said to be the means by which the wise man, who is desirous of mounting to meditation, may reach thereto. So cessation from action is said to be the means for him who hath reached to meditation. When he hath renounced all intentions and is devoid of attachment to action in regard to objects of sense, then he is called one who hath ascended to meditation. He should raise the self by the self. Let him not suffer the self to be lowered, for self is the friend of self, and in like manner, self is its own enemy. Self is the friend of the man who is self-conquered. So self, like a foe, hath enmity to him who is not self-conquered. The self of the man who is self-subdued and free from desires and anger is intent on the supreme self in heat and cold, in pain and pleasure, in honor and ignominy. The man who hath spiritual knowledge and discernment, who standeth upon the pinnacle, and hath subdued the senses, to whom gold and stone are the same, is said to be devoted. And he is esteemed among all who, whether amongst his friends and companions, in the midst of enemies or those who stand aloof or remain neutral, with those who love and those who hate, and in the company of sinners or the righteous, is of equal mind. He who has attained to meditation should constantly strive to stay at rest in the Supreme, remaining in solitude and seclusion, having his body and his thoughts under control, without possessions and free from hope. So next we'll begin the talk on the Theosophical New Year, and please mute your microphones. Thank you.
Good morning, friends, and a happy Theosophical New Year to everyone. Today, January 4th, we are celebrating Theosophical New Year, and we'll talk a little bit more about what does it mean, what differences between the Theosophical year and how Theosophists interpret the beginning of New Year, what concepts are important in understanding Theosophical New Year, and what hopes and aspirations and intentions we put into the Theosophical New Year or a new year altogether. So there is more of esoteric and exoteric side, but the outcome is the same. We put certain intentions, we attach certain ideas and concepts to what we want the new year look like and what we expect from it. So the first concept in understanding Theosophical New Year is, of course, the concept of cycles. And we talked a little bit about cycles in the previous talk, because the new year is just a spin in the cycle. The next will be day by day as the year will unfold, but this is the beginning of the smaller cycle in which we exist. The cycles, basically HPB describes the entire existence, the entire beingness and being existing in cycles. That the universe unfolds in a cycle, it goes through the cycles of Manvantaras, then it folds into the one point that closes the cycle, and then the new Manvantara begins. That's the grandest cycle that we can comprehend. There may be other cycles beyond it with the first principle, but that's beyond our comprehension. Then the next cycles are the cycles of nature, something that we can observe, and since the beginning of humanity, we were attuned to. So if we look at the Egyptians, at Incas, Mayas, and various civilizations, they all were attuned to watching the celestial cycles. And based on the celestial cycles and their use of celestial knowledge for agriculture and for their living, they also created the zodiac that governed their spiritual existence and their sort of spiritual path. The other cycles are the cycles of nature that we can observe in our daily life, and that's going through the cycles from winter to spring to summer and fall, and they're marked by solstices. So we had already talked on the solstice, so this is one of the markers in the cycles. And the Theosophical New Year is yet a beginning of a energetic cycle. So we can describe it maybe as energetic cycle. And to understand how the energetic cycle works, we'll go to the concept of astral light, because astral light is foundational for understanding the energetic cycle of the earth. So astral light is sort of the energetic field that follows the earth. In the best way to describe it, it's a difficult concept because it's many things in one, and it's not all necessary simple and positive. Astral light can also work against us. It depends how we reflect into the astral light. But put it in a simple terms, astral light is sort of a storage. It's a data center, a sort of say energetic cloud that contains all of our thoughts, actions, intentions, desires. So it's really a reflection of psychic energy of the earth and all of its inhabitants. So this is a great cloud of all of our records of what we wished, what we did, what we would like, and we're constantly contributing to the astral light and reflecting from the astral light in our life. It's also linked to Akasha, and it's a lower manifestation of Akasha. The other interesting thing about the psychic light is you can compare it to a concept that was coined in the beginning of 20th century by a scientist called Vernadsky. He basically said that the Earth is surrounded by a sphere that is called noosphere, the sphere of the knowledge. And he couldn't define what it is, but he said there is a sphere around the Earth that's not atmosphere, but is a noosphere. He was one of the first scientists of the Russian space exploration. And he was trying to describe in his scientific work what the noosphere is, but the scientific community was not really buying into this, and they were not sure that he's on track with that. So in a way, the astral light is also the noosphere. It is not only knowledge, but emotions of all of us residing on the Earth. I'll try to give you some quotes now from HPB, what she was telling us about. So in also in Mahatma letters, the Akasha and the astral light is the lower manifestation of it, is described as a cosmic atmosphere. So very close to Vernadsky. And it is basically celestial ether that is surrounding matter and interpenetrates matter and serves as a medium through which energies move between the matter and more spiritual realms. And the HPV was mentioning it in her writings as a picture gallery. So she was saying that astral light is just a picture gallery. It's preserving records of events, thoughts, and feelings. So why astral light is so important for the concept of the Theosophical New Year? Because we mark the beginning of the Theosophical New Year when astral light is growing, where it is at its peak potency. And when we look at the cycle of nature, and the nature is at its peak potency in summer. This is where we see it sort of coming to the peak of possibilities. Astral light starts growing right now, so actually today. So today we have a possibility to align with the astral light and imprint our intentions in the astral light, and also draw the information from the astral light into our intentions. So it's a two-way street. But astral light also interpenetrates, as HPB said, the material world. It imprints on elemental, so it's really interpenetrates everything. And depending in what state of mind or state of being or energetic state we are, we will tap into that potential of astral light. So we don't want to tap in its lower potentiality and tap into the records of not such a good things happening on Earth. So we really want to align, sort of clear our lens, sort of our lens through which we look at life, at our existence here, and tap into the higher potentiality of the astral light. Now, again, in Theosophy, we believe that if we align with the astral light or with the cycles, and it's not only in Theosophy, this is going to the sources of the wisdom religion that we can also find in various ancient religions, as I mentioned, from Mayans, Incas, Egyptians, Atlanteans, that they did believe in existence within the cycles and within the phases. So aligning with astral light is very important. The question is, again, I want to refer to a very good Christian saying: the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So we intend the best, but then it works out to be the worst. So reflecting on all of the wisdom religion teachings, they're very simple, but somehow we keep talking about it for generations and centuries and millennia, and it is so hard to get to that state of the adeptship and evolution, or enlightenment, as you call it in Buddhism. So what's preventing us, and why some road to hell is paved with the good intentions? So today we will examine a little bit more how in different traditions intentionality and wishing and intentions for the new year work, and how we were guided and advised to think through them. And that's very different from our Western tradition, because in the Western tradition, we have pretty much two approaches. We intend what we don't want. We say, I don't want to end up in XYZ. I don't want to have a bad health. I don't want to lose a job. And when we intend negative intentionality, it's definitely we're going through the negative. We're imprinting in the astral light negative. I don't want something. So when we say I don't want whatever it is, we are acting from the place of fear. So going back to the saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, when we are paving our wishes in the negative sense, we say we don't want something because we want positive. But what we're recording in the astral light, we're recording fear. Because astral light does not know the sophistication of our phraseology, how we phrase things and what we say. It basically records what do you feel, what is your deeper intention. If your deeper intention is fear, I don't want something bad to happen, it will record fear and will reflect back fear. So it basically reflects the state, energetic state you're in, not the words you twist around to say what you really want. So we know that we're not advised to make intentions and New Year commitments in the negative. So if we want a good health, we say, I want a good health. Not like I don't want to get sick, because then you'll most likely will reflect that fear and that negativity back. In understanding our intentions and our resolutions for the new year, the other concept that's very important to understand is the concept of karma. What is karma? Because at the end, what we're trying to do is run away from karma, change karma, avoid karma, hope there is no bad karma. And this is very commonly used term, often misused, that created lots of misunderstandings and misperceptions. That karma is sometimes seen as a punishment, as something bad basically happening to us if we don't act good. And then the question is, what is good? And again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So good can be different for different people in their definition. So when we look at karma in theosophical way, karma is basically a deviation from unity. So if we look at universal state of unity, it is a certain baseline. And we know that nothing is separate from anything, that we are all one body of one universal principle, first principle, omnipresent beginning, whatever we may call it, logos. So we're all one existence. So the best way probably for simplicity is we're just one existence. From every little bug to us humans here to the stars and universes and galaxies, will all exist in one unity. And there is certain vibration to that unity, certain rhythm, certain pattern, certain cycle to all of this, in which the entire universe exists. Now, when we fall out of, so when we exist within oneness of everything, life is easy, we sort of flow. But when we start deviating from that, we go outside of that field in which unity exists. And when you go outside of the field, basically the energetic balance, or the first law, or whatever the principle we call, is basically redirecting us to the balanced way of existence of unity. So the biggest thing is when karma acts on us, it's not a punishment, it's just redirection of vibratory state, energetic state, of our deviation from the unity with all. So in a way, the more we wish, the more we desire, the more we intend as an individual and get out in this range, the more we are likely, with good intentions or bad intentions, it doesn't matter if you are really having a very good intention, very bad intention, but it's coming from your individual separate state, you are deviating from that vibratory field of the universe, and you probably will be redirected. And that's why sometimes people say, I've been doing such a good things, but why? Maybe it was outside of the field of the unity. So this is basically a karmic law of redirection of whatever we do when we go outside of the balanced way. Now, what drives us outside of the balanced way is, again, our belief in separation. We are individualized beings. Each one of us is an individual light with our own, the way how we reflect the one and all. But we are just reflection of all that exists. And when we start acting in contradiction to all that exists, then the karmic law acts on us. So how do we wish? How do we intend in the new year if basically any individual wish will be outside probably of the state of oneness? And sometimes we have actually many religious practices when individual desires are completely called for elimination, and you have to think for the benefit of everyone, but not yourself. This is where I would like to note the saying of the road to hell carved with a good intentions is when you sacrifice yourself for the good of all, but you do it to gain enlightenment, to get to heaven. The astral light does not know that you're doing it, sacrificing for all. All it sees that you want to get somewhere good for yourself. It just says that because it reflects your deeper desire. So that's the laws of karma. And now we will examine a few traditions that basically speak about how to intend and how to live our life where we can remain in the balance. And we'll touch on first on Christianity, Sufism, then Buddhism, and on Patanjali's yoga, of what these traditions basically advise us, how should we make our intentions. There is a very beautiful prayer in Christian tradition, and I would like to read it verbatim because I think many will recognize without me even saying what it is. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O divine master, grant that I may not much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. So here you can see that we are being called to basically give what we wish to receive. A very basic, again, karmic concept of through giving, we actually receive. We often think that we're receiving, that we enjoy receiving, but actually most of the people enjoy more giving because that's the energetic exchange that has to happen. If we are just bent on receiving, we are outside of the balance. If we just want to give and don't want to receive anything, this is also not natural to a human being. There has to be energetic exchange between everything in nature because that's how, as above, so below. This is how nature is exists. There is energetic exchange between everything. So same in us, just wishing to receive would not imprint the right intention, and just wishing to give equally will not imprint the right intention. It is receiving and giving. As a cell, it receives and it releases. So when you read it from that perspective, so we understand that both receiving and giving is equally important. So in our intentions, that will be probably something that we want to intend. The other concept in Christianity that is quite interesting is from the prayer of St. Francis, where he says, and let me distinguish what needs to be corrected and what does not. Because I think this is something that as a human beings, we often struggle with finding that sort of fine line where we need to interfere and where no interference is needed. And basically, where do we create positive karma? Where we create negative karma? Because we always create karma through action. The other Christian saying that is quite interesting in this context is the one where, let me see, I have it also printed. And I'm not finding it now, but it's basically, it's from, I believe it is from Matthew. Here it is. It's Matthew 6:25. Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what you shall eat and what you shall drink, not yet for your body, what you shall put on. It is not the life more than meat, and the body than raiment. So the point here is that the birds and flowers do not worry about how they live tomorrow, but we humans do. And Matthew is calling us that do not worry about what you will eat tomorrow. This, to a Western civilization, this seems to be a concept that very much, again, is progress. Because if we are to embrace progress, we need to worry how we will live tomorrow, what we will eat tomorrow, how we can improve our progress as a society, as a humanity, as an economy. And that puts our mind living in the future. We're always worrying what we will do and projecting circumstances that we will need to address that may never come into fruition. So our mind becoming a busy machine of thinking what may be in the future, how to avoid this, how to prevent this, how to fix things. So instead of being present and being like the flowers and the birds, just enjoying what is here now, we become a busy machine that is solving problems that actually may not exist. And our mind is set on solving problems that do not exist. This is a precursor of our progress, but it's also maybe a reason behind our downfall. The interesting concept, now we'll go back from this to Theosophy. We have a book that everybody is well familiar with, and I have it right here, The Voice of the Silence. So the entire book is about voice of the silence. Basically, silence has no voice, but we're speaking of voice of the silence. And there is another interesting tradition that speaks about voice of silence, and that's Sufism, from their own standpoint and their own angle. And what they say on finding the silence in the voice, they say that the silence comes from the mind that is not occupied. To hear voice of the silence, you need to cease all busyness of the mind. So very, again, similar to what Patanjali in yoga aphorisms is calling us to basically focus mind and the meditation. But in Sufism, it is a little bit different perspective. They basically say to achieve the silence, you need to drop all busy thinking. And busy thinking is or judgment or worry, because judgment is part of the fear is part of the thinking what the future may be, what it may not be. So Sufism is calling us to drop all of that busyness and not to worry about that, because most of these things may never even come. Therefore, making projections that I want to be, let's take something simple. I want to be more healthy. That's already projecting that I may be doing something that's not healthy and maybe something bad will happen. So again, it is a projection of busy mind, what may happen. Instead of saying, I feel good, I am healthy, I am. So any intention of projecting what I would like to see, in a way, is coming from lack. I see that as being lacking, therefore I project that I want that, I will intend that. And this is on very basic sort of living concept. Now we'll go to more of the theosophical concepts that we always discussing how to conquer our lower selves, how to subdue our lower self, our ego. The more we engage into that debate, the more we actually fear that this ego is consuming us. And in Sufism, they say, what you run from will imprison you. What you accept will liberate you. So the more you actually preoccupy yourself, how we can subdue the ego and to be more in that vibratory state, the more that ego may be fighting us of not releasing. But this is almost like catch-22. We need to do something, because if we just let it run rampant, then we may end up in all of this highs and lows. But at the same, if we preoccupy, according to Sufism, if we preoccupy ourselves with self-perfection and focusing on the ego, then all we will see will be ego. They have another beautiful saying, what you are seeking is also seeking you. There is a very broad range of things you can be seeking, but if you narrowed your search on something specific, that thing is also seeking you. If you're seeking to conquer the ego, that ego is seeking to conquer you. So that's sort of their basic stance on this. They also have in Sufism a concept of azikar, and azikar is very, very deep and very interesting concept, and it's very resounding of theosophical concept. In azikar, they basically believe in an inner path in which you do not improve yourself, you do not change yourself, you do not achieve something. All you do is you remember yourself. So it's a practice of remembrance. So instead of going and shaping yourself into something, what is a very much, I would say, fundamental concept between the entire Western civilization. We shape ourselves into something, we give ourselves a new form, we shape our society into something, we shape our economy into something. So we are the civilization of shapers. In Sufism, they actually say there is nothing to be shaped because everything is already there. We already are divine. The God is in us. So if we start shaping that God in something more, we're almost like getting our mind busy because it's already there. So why would you try to shape something that is? So if you truly believe that you are divine, you won't be there shaping yourself into being more and more divine and better, or more aligned with the unity. You already are. So they say the task of humanity is not to become better or shape ourselves into something or subdue ego. It is to remember who we really are. It's to remember our divinity and forget all of these concepts. And they use an analogy that if you look in the mirror that is really dusty and you don't like yourself, you say, well, this is like really blurry and I am not looking good. What we usually do, we start changing ourselves to look better in that mirror. But all that needs to be done, we need to clear the dust. The reflection is absolutely perfect. It's dusty. So we have to clear dust from the mirror and not to change ourselves into something different. So they basically, Sufism says that lots of our pain and suffering as humanity comes from contorting ourselves in something more or something different. What we shouldn't be busying ourselves. And if we drop all of these ideas and just return to our remembrance of who we are, we will hear the voice of silence. And in that silence will be the divine in us. So it's quite a beautiful concept. So that's the Sufis. So the intention, according to the Sufis, intention for the new year would be not to achieve anything, not to perfect anything, not to have anything, but just to enjoy who we are already. And just celebrate as they do in their sort of the swirling dances of our being in this very present moment. So they're very much about remembering our divinity, following this path of azikar, and celebrating our divinity in the present moment. And they believe that through that remembrance, we're actually becoming more attuned with the unified field of all. So now I would like to go back to the Christian faith and note a few other interesting concepts that very much resonate with the Sufis. One very powerful quote that often being pronounced, and it's very short. It says, "Thy will be done." And it's often perceived as defeatism, that basically thy will be done. What does it mean? I don't have any will. I just say whatever, divine will be done, and I will do nothing about it. There's lots of different interpretations of thy will be done. I will read some quotes that lead to that. So the one, the thy will be done, is coming from, again, Matthew 6:10. And it says, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. And again, this is so resonant with the Theosophical concept, as above, so below. So thy will be done as on earth as in heaven. Basically, the first principle acts according to its universal, immutable laws, as above, as on earth. And it is not changeable. That's why our karmic deviation from that principle is, we can deviate, but it remains the same. So that will be done. Neither we, rather we like it, we don't like it, but that's how the universe exists. The other one is, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. So that's Jesus in the Gethsemane praying that I don't want this, but Father, if that's your will, that will be done. And the third one, oh my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done. Again, the same. And this is Matthew 26:42. Then Acts 21:14. And when he would not be persuaded, we ceased saying, the will of the Lord be done. Then James 4:15. For thou ye ought to say, if the Lord will, we shall live and do this or that. And the last one, Hebrew 10:7. Lo, I come to do thy will, O Lord. So when we look at thy will be done from the Theosophical perspective, what does it actually mean? We are not relying on some divine will to act on our behalf where we are passive observers. Thy will be done is basically understanding that there is thy will, but thy will is not like we don't have a divine figure, we don't have the God per se. So thy will is existence of the first principle with its universal law. So there is thy will. This is the way the universe exists and acts. And we have our will. We can align this will with it, or we can stick out like a sore thumb, so to say, and be redirected. So we have our own will. And sometimes we really, really want something and it looks like it's a positive intention, but somehow it doesn't happen and nothing goes right, and we're just sort of hitting the wall over and over. And this is where the thy will would be applied. Like we want it, maybe it's not aligned with the billions and trillions of consequences and effects. Again, we are in a matrix of the universe, and there are different events happening, what we may say, and I want this, but it's not aligned with the everything that is taking place. So thy will is saying, I really want that, but for whatever reason, those karmic forces redirect me to something else. And if I'm hitting full for so many times trying to achieve something, maybe it's something very good. This is the karmic effect that maybe to be accepted. And this is going back to Sufism. What you run away from will imprison you, and what you accept will liberate you. So if you accept maybe a circumstance that is not something you wished for, but you come with it with acceptance, we'll find freedom in that. And that takes me yet to another fascinating tradition, that literally the entire tradition is based on non-resistance. And that's the Taoism and the concept of Wu Wei. So Taoism was the mastermind behind it was Lao Tzu, whether he was a real master, existing person, or was sort of linked to more of a wisdom religion and was a sort of created image, we don't know, but the practice of Taoism and Wu Wei is something that really, really took the thy will be done and the concept of non-resistance in Sufism and the one universal principle on balance and karma in the Theosophy to sort of to the next level. Basically, in Wu Wei, it is living without resisting. It's basically flowing where the life flows. So in Taoism, the main belief is that you have to be so aligned with this balance of the universe that the moment you feel struggle or tension or you want to resist something, you know that's not the way. So the way is the Wu Wei of flowing with what is and what is happening. So it's basically a complete and total attunement to all what is around you, from nature to relationships to circumstances, and going with the flow. Basically a path of non-resistance. Another two traditions that to be mentioned is Buddhism. In Buddhism, the same concept presented, but in a little bit different terms. In Buddhism, we are faced with a concept of non-attachment. So one of the core concepts is basically not holding desires and not holding attachments. And when we compare it across other traditions, well, it's the same as in a Sufism, not keeping your mind busy with what if and what when this may not happen. Because once you're getting your mind busy with all what if and when, you're busy with things that are not real, and you're not able to hear the voice of silence. So to hear the voice of silence, you really need to come to yourself, have one pointed mind that is not busy with all the permutations of our desires and consequences of not achieving them. So releasing desire takes out one of the main ingredients with which you cannot bake the busy mind. So that's probably the simplest way to present Buddhism, that they take away desire, and that's like the flour out of the cake. You can still have the eggs and sugar and everything else, but without flour, cake will not be made. So they focus on the attachment and desire, and removing that basically doesn't give the enough substance for your mind to work with. And now we go to Patanjali and the Sutra Yoga. The same thing, he is teaching us how to become present and one-pointedness of the mind through meditation and through discipline of the mind. But if we read carefully, there is also a message of not doing this to subdue your ego or to achieve something. Because if you do that, then your one-pointedness of the mind is busy with that outcome. So the true one-pointedness and state of meditation is the state where you literally do not desire anything, do not attach to anything, do not worry about anything, when you are just present in your own divinity, in the state of the universe here and now. So it's almost like, if we look at the cycles, so if we look at the point, and we had some talks on the point, so when the Manvantara begins, all the universe expands, and all of our lives and all the beautiful things and stars happen. And then when it collapses, when Manvantara ends, all of this recedes in one point. And all of these beautiful passions and desires and spins and all what happens in our realms and beyond our realms stop to exist. So whenever you are one-pointed, you cannot be in any of these places. So you have to be here or nowhere. So if we are even focused on conquering ego, or enlightenment, so this is the ego conquest, this is the enlightenment, this is the reaching adeptship. Whatever we point our mind on in meditation to reach that state, it's still in the unfolding universe, in the realm of illusions. So the only place that there is basically total nothing. And this is one tradition that takes us there is Theravada Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism basically in the meditation takes us to pure nothingness, to the point where we are not. So those are the different traditions and their advice for how we can set our intentions. Now, what we can take from this on Theosophical New Year and where we are right now setting our intentions for the coming year, probably the best thing is just to silence all the desires, all the worries, all the probabilities that may not happen, and to be present in our divinity and clear our lens that will allow astral light to reflect the best in us and allow us to explore our divine selves and shine into the astral light the same high aspirations that are not necessarily attached to any achievement of any better qualities, higher states, but basically relaxing into the state of being. And that brings me to the very last idea that I wanted to share, and this is from Sufism, the concept of peace. Often we believe that if we, from more of exoteric life, if we work really hard throughout the life, then we retire and we achieve that peace. but everything will be peaceful and good. From more esoteric life, if we just settle all of our earthly problems, then somehow we get to the state of peace. It's just this, the children or the money or the job keeps us out of the peace. And we just need to settle those things, and then the peace will arrive. And in the Sufism, they say, actually, the peace is within. If you find that peace within, your life will rearrange itself. You need to do nothing to the life. You need to find that point of peace in you, and your life will start rearranging. So it's opposite. You do not achieve peace externally by fixing things. You find it in yourself, and externally everything will align with that peace inside. So I wish everyone for the new year peace and finding that peace, and that's probably the best intention we can have for ourselves. So now we'll open for questions. No more wishes.
Formulate the question. There's that in us which is permanent, and that which in us is impermanent. And so isn't it true there's this idea that only the permanent can recognize the impermanence, the changing? It's not that the changing aspects don't see other changing aspects. So the idea is to get to that, whatever in us is the permanent, the unchanging, the center, I guess. You talked a lot about it.
And that's like the Plato and the cave, the observer, our ability to observe the impermanent ourselves, and the ability to step out of being actor to becoming an observer.
That brings up another idea. We do sometimes have like premonitions or presentiments. We, maybe in a dream, or when we're maybe just daydreaming of changes to come. Are those times when we're, more or less centered?
It may be when we are centered and when we're able to clear the lens enough to see the astral light, because again, everything is in astral light. The future, past is all now happening at one moment. So you can, if you can see clearly, you sort of can see all. But because our lens is so dusty with what will I have for breakfast, we're not tuned to see that. So maybe sometimes we're able to somehow, and often we have these premonitions in the maybe moments like of awakening or shock, or that's when we become more attuned to, I guess, astral light or Akashic record, as also could be, when we can read it back. But this is really a fascinating concept, that everything is recorded and it's not recorded because it's predetermined. It's recorded as it is happening. So it is, it's not static, that we are constantly taking and contributing to that. If anyone has more thoughts on that or would like to explain it, that would be great, because it's really a very complex concept. I try to touch on it, but there is more to it.
HPV talks about the past and the present and the future all being one. And so in some sense, from some perspective of our consciousness, everything is predetermined. It has already happened. She says that we're experiencing a series of snapshots in our consciousness. We're experiencing these things one scene at a time, but we have, like, we've seen the entire preview of our life at the moment of birth, right? So that, how could you see a preview of your life if it hasn't happened, right? So we are, of course, elsewhere in Theosophy, we know that we are self-determined agents of will and karma, and so we do have will. We do have an impact on our environment and on our progress. But I think it's more accurate to say that we did the first time we did this, and what we're experiencing now is the sort of is loose.
Sequential.
Yeah, but we're experiencing it in 3 dimensions.
Mhm.
We're obviously multi-dimensional beings. I don't think the higher nature is bound by these 3 dimensions, and so we're experiencing it one scene at a time because that's the only way we can
In time, yeah, because we exist in time.
Right. We can experience the time dimension only one slice at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Just as we can't consume an entire loaf of bread all at once, right? We have to move through its length dimension one slice at a time in order to experience it. So there's lots of metaphors like that, but it's very tricky to reconcile
Yes.
will with this idea that this has already happened. But it's very clear. I mean, HPD makes it very clear that we have this has already happened, but it doesn't mean it's predetermined. We're still free conscious agents. We're doing that determining now, or we're experiencing that determining. It's very paradoxical.
So it's almost like the comparison comes to mind, especially after the New Year Eve. It's like a one big firework. So our life just happens in now. There is a big firework, but then we look through each sparkle once at a time and try to make sequencing of it when it's actually all unfolded and already is, but it unfolded from a free will. But then we're just viewing it, but in a way it already unfolded. It tickles your mind and
yeah, it's like a novel, a book, right? We experience that book one page at a time, but once we have experienced that book, it's all in our heads. You know what I mean? Like we know the beginning, the middle, the end. We know the whole plot. We know the arc of the characters. We know the insights and everything that are revealed throughout the book. We know all of these things, but only after we've gone through it one page at a time and allowed to experience it unfold. Watching movies the same way. It's 34 frames per second. It's a knowable number of individual scenes from beginning to the movie to the end of the movie, and you don't know it until you've gone through it frame by frame. Someone cannot hand you a DVD and you look at it and be like, I know this movie, right? You have to have experienced it one scene at a time before you can make anything of it. Once you have, then it's all there. You have this random access now to it. Anywhere you want to go to, it's all there in the astral.
There is a fascinating movie on the topic. It's fairly new movie, Resurrection. I forgot by Chinese filmmaker Gong. Basically, it shows a person living his life, but inside of him is a film. So he is watching sort of segment by segment his whole life, and then the movie showing how he's experiencing this and that, but all it is the film that already was taken of his life. But the film was taken of free will and real life. It's not like some print, like not a blueprint. It is very interesting to think. And yeah, there are those premonitions. I think many of us experience them when you can't explain them. They are there. So any comments from online or any contributions to this? It's such an interesting topic.
I appreciated your relaxed take on the concept of a New Year's resolution by means of action through non-action. It was very Taoist. But I think that as life goes on and we get older and capitalism matures and we see the folly in ceaseless improvement of sometimes things that might not need that much improvement. It's very true that actually the way that one can get the most improvement in one's life is just by being fully present in their life as it is in that moment. And that by doing that, and whatever the moment is, unlocks the full potential of whatever timelines are available to you in that moment. So I enjoyed that take.
Good, good. We're all ready for New Year.
11:56 a.m.
In case you were wondering.
Yeah, in case we didn't know. Reminder of the time.
Yeah, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita does talk a little bit about that, like when Purusha, the spirit, invests in Prakriti or matter, experiences the qualities of nature, the qualities that are inherent in matter. And that's when Purusha experiences them, and it's in attachment to those qualities that produces rebirth. So just like Alex was saying, how we relate to what happens, maybe it doesn't need a lot of reaction, maybe like the Taoist, he said, observe and take the hints we get from observing and make little adjustments is better than, overhauling your whole life and your diet and everything, as many people like to do in the new year.
It's instead of like basically in the Sufism, like what you're seeking is seeking you, is warning us against fixation on something, because there is a multitude of possibilities, but you fixate on fixing. I think the two words are related. Something, it will take you down that rabbit hole, because that's all you will be doing, and maybe okay, because karmically that's what you choose to focus on. But if you don't like it, you don't have to. You just don't fixate it, don't fix it, and focus on something else, and it will disappear. As simple as that. Like we think if unless we fix something, we cannot go on. But actually, things can be just dropped, and we can fix on something else. They don't need to be solved, not necessary.
What you think of expands, so how, the
Mhm.
function of attention and
That it's a choice to be fixed on fixing this. And if it's not fixing, you can spend your whole lifetime fixing unfixable instead of creating something in a whole different realm. So it's, again, it's a concept of detachment. We get so attached to what we're fixing, and sometimes it's the other person. It's not only us, so we can get fixed and fixing in the other, something that completely does need to be fixed.
It reminds me of another, or maybe an expanded interpretation of that saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And that is that it's because they're only intentions, right? The road to hell is not paved with good deeds, good actions. It's paved with good intentions, meaning you have this intention,
But you didn't do it.
but you didn't. So it's like the danger of a resolution. Is that you make the resolution, but you don't keep the resolution.
It's interesting on that, different take.
If you know this, then you can be kind of more thoughtful about what you actually be able to accomplish this year, and a sort of intention that's reasonable and something you can accomplish.
The other take on this can be that we can have a good intention for the other, but we can never know what the other soul needs. Like our best intention for the other person and all what we want to do is not what they need. So our good intention actually not doing that good.
It's like the distinction between the golden rule and the platinum rule.
Yes, yeah. I remember my childhood, my grandmother would always overdress me to the point I could not move in winter. It was her good intention. She feared cold, and I feared not being able to move. We had different values and priorities.
I had a debate this week regarding celebrities who, let's say, go to hospitals on Christmas time, holidays, and it's recorded on camera and broadcasted. People are telling me that if it's made public like that, that it's absolutely fake, that it's just to get sympathy from people or admiration. and that if it's legit altruism with a good intention, then it should be absolutely kept private. What would be the impression on that topic? Because I literally saw several videos this week of people celebrities going to hospitals with children or ill individuals, and it's very, very visibly public in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Well, my take on this would be when you when you do good things that come out of your very core being in your heart, you don't even notice it. It's like part of the routine. You did it and you move to the next. It just law of necessity. It had to be done. It felt right. You did it and you're doing something else. Even if you don't record it, but you keep focusing, I did that, wasn't that nice? That's already an attachment. That's already like, I'm trying to be nice to fight the ego, but then I'm fighting something. The core feeling behind is fight, struggle, seeing yourself as fallible, trying to become better, and then show others I'm better. So Astral Light would not reflect that in the positive terms. So the doing good should be really like a part of our routine. I don't remember, did I brush the hair? Didn't brush the hair, it looks good. So just way of being.
If I may, I think every celebrity who does that has their own motives, and they're complex. You never know the true motives of another. In some cases, it's absolutely a publicity stunt, for sure, and maybe even transparent. So in other cases, they don't want the attention, but they know that by doing it, they'll bring more attention to the cause,
to the topic,
right? Rather than keep it private. Others, maybe lots of celebrities did do it, and they did it privately, and we didn't know it because so we're only judging the ones that we see, and we can of course ascribe to it any number of motivations, but you don't know the interior motives of another. It's otherwise we're being judgmental. Right? We're making assumptions, and that's another road to hell.
Yes, very true. Very true. We don't have the full picture.
The adepts know. Their higher nature knows. And it's between them and their higher nature.
And in what way they will say, well, that's how it has to be done. Why resist?
They've seen every movie there is to see.
Yes, the adepts. I've seen all the movies. Yeah. It's funny to think of the Christ teachings from that perspective. Well, I've seen that in that movie. Don't do that.
Yeah. It doesn't end well.
No, it doesn't end well. I've just seen too many movies. I know this. Okay, if there are no more questions, we're already a little bit over time, so we'll close now, and I'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll go to the readings.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.